There was a time when the most expensive car on an American dealer's lot wasn't some exotic import with an unpronounceable name. It was something big, something domestic, something draped in velour and chrome, and the unmistakable scent of ambition. These were cars built for people who didn't just want to arrive, they wanted to make an entrance. And the price tags? They'd make your mortgage look reasonable. Today, we're counting down the 5 most expensive American cars of the 1970s and 1980s, machines that redefined what it meant to spend serious money on 4 wheels and a dream. Number 5, 1976 Cadillac Fleetwood 75 Limousine. If you wanted a factory-built American limousine in 1976, there was exactly one place to go: your Cadillac dealer. The Fleetwood 75 was the only purpose-built limousine still being manufactured in America. And at $15,200, it was the most expensive production Cadillac you could buy that year. That might not sound earth-shattering today, but adjusted for inflation, you're looking at north of $80,000. And this was back when the average new car cost about $4,000. The numbers on this thing were almost absurd. A 151.5-inch wheelbase, an overall length of 252 inches, that's 21 feet of automobile. Under that seemingly endless hood sat Cadillac's legendary 500 cubic inch V8, the largest production engine in the world at the time, putting out 190 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque through a 3-speed turbo-hydromatic transmission. It wasn't fast. Nobody cared. This car was about arriving, not racing. The limousine version came with a powered glass partition separating front and rear compartments, dual automatic climate control systems, rear seat controls for the radio and windows, reading lamps, and, because this was Cadillac, 4 cigarette lighters. Not 2, 4. Just 834 limousines were built for 1976, alongside 981 9-passenger sedans. And here's the thing that makes these special. 1976 was the last year for these massive, full-size Fleetwood bodies. Everything got downsized for 1977. These were the final dinosaurs, and they knew it. Today, clean examples can be found for $15,000 to $25,000, roughly what they cost new half a century ago. If you want to experience what peak American limousine luxury felt like before the accountants and emissions regulations took over, there's nothing else quite like it. But $15,000 was just the starting line. Lincoln was about to take luxury pricing to a place it had never been before. Number 4. 1978 Lincoln Continental Mark V Diamond Jubilee Edition. The Lincoln Continental Mark V was already one of the most imposing cars on the road. At 230 inches long, it remains the longest 2-door coupe Ford has ever produced. But in 1978, Lincoln decided to commemorate Ford Motor Company's 75th anniversary with something truly special, the Diamond Jubilee Edition. And with a base price hovering around $20,000, it became the first Lincoln in history to break the $20,000 barrier. That was serious money. In 1978, the average American home cost about $55,000. This was a 2-door coupe that cost more than a third of a house. Under the hood, the Diamond Jubilee packed a 400 cubic inch V8, producing 166 horsepower. Though buyers could option up to the mighty 460 V8 for more grunt. A C6 3-speed automatic was the only transmission. Manual labor was not part of the program. The car rode on 15-inch turbine aluminum wheels and floated down the highway on a suspension tuned for one purpose, making every road feel like freshly poured silk. What made the Diamond Jubilee special wasn't just the mechanicals. It was only available in 2 colors, Diamond Blue and Jubilee Gold, each with a color-coordinated Landau vinyl roof. The Opera windows featured actual beveled glass with simulated diamond chips laminated in and Diamond Jubilee Edition script etched into them. The interior was finished in special broad-lace cloth inserts, Tiffany cut pile carpeting, and beveled instrument panel lenses. A leather-bound owner's manual came standard, along with a Cartier chronometer in the dash. Lincoln produced 5,159 Diamond Jubilee editions for 1978, and despite that hefty sticker, it outsold the Cadillac Eldorado in the full-size luxury market that year. Today, nice examples trade between $15,000 and $35,000, with exceptionally low mileage survivors pushing past $40,000. It remains one of the most decadent cars Ford ever put its name on. And yet, 20 grand was still just upper middle class money compared to what was coming next. Number 3, 1987 Cadillac Allante. In the mid-1980s, Cadillac had a problem. Wealthy American buyers were defecting to Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Jaguar in droves. Cadillac needed something that screamed sophistication, something with European DNA. Their solution was audacious. Commission Italy's legendary Pininfarina, the same house that designed Ferraris, to design and build a two-seat luxury roadster for Cadillac. The result was the Allante, and at $54,700, it was the most expensive Cadillac ever offered when it debuted in 1987. To put that in perspective, you could buy a house in most of America for that money. The average home price in 1987 was around $104,000. This was a two-seat convertible that cost more than half a house. The production process was unlike anything the American auto industry had seen. Pininfarina built the bodies at a dedicated facility in San Giorgio Canavese, Italy. 56 completed bodies at a time were loaded onto specially modified Boeing 747 freighters in Turin, flown across the Atlantic, and delivered to Cadillac's Hamtramck assembly plant in Detroit for final assembly. They called it the Allante Air Bridge, the world's longest assembly line stretching across an ocean. Mechanically, the 1987 Allante ran a 4.1-liter HT4100 V8, producing 170 horsepower and 235 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 4-speed automatic and driving the front wheels. Those numbers weren't going to scare any Porsches, and 0 to 60 took a leisurely 9 to 10 seconds. But the Allante wasn't about speed, it was about presence. Standard equipment was lavish: full leather interior with Recaro memory seats, a removable aluminum hardtop, 4-wheel disc brakes with Bosch ABS, a Delco Bose Symphony sound system, a fully electronic instrument panel, and the industry's first power retractable cellular telephone antenna. The only option was a car phone installed in a lockable center console. That was it. Everything else came standard. Over its 7-year run through 1993, Cadillac built 21,430 Allante convertibles. The car never quite achieved the sales success GM hoped for. Reliability issues with that HT4100 engine and complex electronics hurt its reputation. Today, project cars can be found for $5,000, while pristine, low-mileage examples command $15,000 to $30,000. It was a beautiful, flawed, incredibly ambitious experiment. But even $54,000 wasn't enough to claim the top spot, not even close. Number 2, 1981 Zimmer Golden Spirit. Most people have never heard of a Zimmer, and that's exactly what makes it special. In 1978, Paul Zimmer sketched the design for a neoclassic luxury coupe on a napkin during dinner with his son. By 1980, the Zimmer Motor Cars Corporation was producing one of the most audacious American automobiles of the decade from a factory in Pompano Beach, Florida, a factory that had previously built custom interiors for conversion vans. The car was the Golden Spirit, and at roughly $55,900, it cost more than a Mercedes-Benz 380 SL by nearly $17,000. What buyers got was extraordinary. Zimmer started with a brand new Ford Mustang, then proceeded to destroy it. The entire body was stripped except for the roof and doors. The chassis was extended by 38 inches. New steering and brake components were installed. Then Zimmer's craftsmen fitted custom fiberglass body panels that transformed the Mustang into something that looked like it had rolled out of a 1930s Hollywood set, complete with polished chrome bumpers, trumpet horns, cowl lights, side-mounted spare tires, and a gold eagle radiator mascot. Inside, Ford's ordinary Mustang interior was replaced with full leather upholstery, Recaro seats, and a Nardi wood-rimmed steering wheel. Power came from Ford's reliable 5.0-liter V8 and either a 3-speed C4 or later 4-speed automatic transmission, sending power to the rear wheels. The Zimmer was not a kit car. This was a fully engineered factory-built automobile sold with its own manufacturer's certificate of origin. Approximately 1,500 Golden Spirits were built between 1980 and 1988 before the company filed for bankruptcy. Most were two-door hardtops, though a handful of convertibles were produced, perhaps fewer than 30, making them exceptionally rare today. Clean Golden Spirits now trade for $20,000 to $40,000. Low-mileage convertibles can push higher. Love it or hate it, and people tend to feel strongly, the Zimmer Golden Spirit remains one of the most distinctive American automobiles ever produced. But at $55,900, the Golden Spirit was only the second most expensive American car you could buy. The throne belonged to something even more outrageous. Number 1, 1971 to 1987 Stutz Blackhawk. The most expensive American car of the 1970s wasn't a Cadillac. It wasn't a Lincoln. It was a hand-built, Italian-bodied, gold-plated monument to excess called the Stutz Blackhawk, and at its peak, it carried a sticker price of $129,500. That was more than you'd pay for a Rolls-Royce, more than a Ferrari, more than most people's homes. The story begins in 1968, when New York investment banker James O'Donnell revived the Stutz name, a brand that had died during the Great Depression in 1937. He enlisted Virgil Exner, the legendary designer who had defined Chrysler's iconic finned and chromed era in the 1950s, to pen a new Blackhawk. The prototype was built by Ghia in Italy at a cost exceeding $300,000. The production car debuted at the Waldorf Astoria in January 1970, and the first customer was Elvis Presley himself. He bought the first Blackhawk off the line, a black-on-black coupe, for $26,500 and agreed to let Stutz photograph the delivery. Elvis would eventually own 5 of them. From there, the celebrity owners list reads like a Hollywood Walk of Fame. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Elton John, Al Pacino, Billy Joel, Liberace. Even King Khalid of Saudi Arabia commissioned a stretch limousine version with a throne that rose hydraulically through the roof. Each Blackhawk started life as a complete Pontiac Grand Prix, purchased at retail and shipped to Italy. The entire body and interior were stripped and discarded. In their place went a completely new hand-fabricated heavy-gauge steel body over 19 feet long, finished in 18 to 22 hand-rubbed lacquer coats that took 6 weeks to apply. Total production time per car exceeded 1,500 man-hours. The base powertrain was Pontiac's 455 cubic inch V8, tuned to produce 425 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, mated to a GMTH 403-speed automatic. Despite weighing over 5,000 pounds, the Blackhawk could hit 60 miles per hour in 8.4 seconds and reach a top speed of 130 miles per hour. The interior was absurd in the best possible way. 24-karat gold-plated trim, bird's eye maple or burled walnut, and redwood accents. Connolly leather throughout. Fine wool or mink carpeting. A Lear jet aircraft radio, the most expensive car radio in the world, and a built-in liquor cabinet in the rear. Every car received a dash plaque engraved with its original owner's name. Prices start at $22,500 in 1971, just $2,700 less than the median American home price. By 1976, the base price had climbed to $47,500. By 1981, it was $84,500 for the coupe. And the Stutz d'Italia convertible? That was advertised as the most expensive car sold today, at $129,500. If you wanted the stretch limousine, prices started at $200,000, without options. Over 16 years of production, only 500 to 600 Blackhawks were ever built, coupes, sedans, convertibles, and the occasional limousine. No two were exactly alike. Production ended quietly in 1987. Today, the Stutz Blackhawk occupies a strange and wonderful place in automotive history. It's too eccentric for mainstream collectors and too spectacular to ignore. Well-preserved early examples occasionally surface at auction for $30,000 to $60,000, while Elvis Presley's personal collection remains at Graceland. For the money it cost new, you could have bought a fleet of Cadillacs, but that was never the point. The Stutz Blackhawk existed for people who already had fleets of Cadillacs and wanted something no one else on their street, or their country club, or their continent would ever own. These 5 cars remind us of something we've lost. There was a time when American automakers didn't just build luxury, they built spectacle. They built cars that were unapologetic, oversized, and dripping with ambition. Cars that cost more than houses and came with liquor cabinets and gold plating, and bodies flown across oceans on 747s. We'll probably never see anything like them again, and maybe that's exactly why they still matter. So which one would you park in your dream garage? The factory limousine, the Italian-American roadster, or a hand-built gold-trimmed coupe once owned by the king of rock and roll?